Welcome to our second week of philosophy. I just wanted to go over some basic terms with you guys on logic. So logic is the way that we should think. It is a descriptive, not descriptive, but prescriptive. So there's things that describe and then there's things that prescribe. So there's the way we do think, and then there's the way we ought to think. Well, logic and the rules of logic that we'll be going over are the ways that we should think to be good thinkers, good critical thinkers, and to evaluate things coming to defensible conclusions. So logic is the branch of philosophy that is about the nature of thinking itself. And again, like I said, it is the rules for correct reasoning. It is prescriptive. This is what we ought to be doing. So, and I'm going to give you guys this PowerPoint to read through as well with the book. So, some of the things that you might want to know: reasoning. So, it's producing reasons or evidence for conclusions that we're hoping to establish. So if you're wanting to make some kind of an argument, which is what we do most of the time in philosophy, is we use these rules of reasoning to establish some kind of conclusion. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking about philosophy of religion. So you'll have the Kalam cosmological argument that we'll talk about. And it has two premises and a conclusion. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. The conclusion, therefore, the universe has a cause. So that is a pretty simple categorical syllogism. You've got two premises there, two reasons for supporting your conclusion there, and I'll keep using that example throughout this video just to get some consistency here. So an argument, that's a group of propositions or reasons that support your conclusion. So you've got premises, and you've got conclusions. And the inference, that's really the part that you can't see. That's the relationship between the two. And I've got a couple of examples that will show you examples of arguments that don't really follow each other. So, and sorry, the formatting on this is weird. I don't know why it did it this time. I think it's because I'm trying to record here. But an example of an argument is, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, and that line should be under man there. It says, therefore, Socrates is mortal. So that line is supposed to represent therefore. So you can say, okay, here's this category, all men. And Socrates, he's also a man, so he's in this category of all men. All men are this thing. They're mortal. So if Socrates is in this larger category of men, then he is also mortal. So that's another categorical syllogism. It establishes the truth of that. If all men are truly mortal and Socrates truly is a man, then the conclusion there is necessary that Socrates is also mortal. So that's an example of a deductive syllogism. There's two types of logic that we'll really talk about in here, deductive and inductive. Deductive, when you've got a conclusion that follows from the premises, that conclusion is a necessary conclusion. So if the premises are true, the conclusion is necessarily true. Inductive logic, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and I'll explain that. So deductive logic, kind of on that right now. So validity, when we're talking about the structure of the argument, we saw that was a pretty straightforward argument. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Okay, so we can see how that conclusion follows from those premises. So it is a valid syllogism. There's your fancy word, valid. It refers to our structure for our argument. And again, if the conclusion must necessarily follow from the premises. It is invalid if it does not. And the word there is non sequitur, which is just Latin for does not follow. So here's another example, and you can tell pretty easily that this is a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. So I have a blue car. Actually, I do have a blue car. Inception was a good movie. Therefore, I love pizza. Like, okay, every single one of those things is true. I do love pizza. I have a blue car. Inception was pretty interesting. Made me think a little bit. But none of those have a relationship to each other. Each one of those, while being true, doesn't really form an argument. And there's no way that we can get to my love of pizza because I think Inception's a good movie, or my ownership of a blue car or something like that. So we want to make sure that our conclusion follows from our premises, that we actually have reasons for supporting our conclusions. So more terminology here for you. Truth value. So that refers to the quality of propositions. So are they true or false? So your propositions, your premises are either true or false, and the argument, the whole thing, is either valid or invalid. So that bolded text there in the middle, the truth value of the proposition has nothing to do with validity of the argument, and the validity has nothing to do with the truth value. So you can have valid arguments that have false premises, and it will still be a valid argument. So now, if you have a valid argument and all true premises, then you have this term, right? Well, the term will be sound, but I forgot to put this slide in here too. So look at this on the left here. All cows are purple. All purple animals jump over the moon. Therefore, all cows jump over the moon. That is a valid syllogism. And if we were to just give it the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, we'll check for truth value later, let's just look at the structure. Okay, all cows are purple, and all purple animals jump over the moon, so cows are in this category of purple animals. Then our conclusion, all cows jump over the moon. This is just like Socrates being mortal and being a man, right? It is the exact same structure. However, with Socrates, all those premises were true. Socrates was a man, all men are mortal. So his argument, that argument was sound. This argument, while valid, is not sound because not all cows are purple. In fact, I don't know of any purple cows. And cows or purple animals in general do not jump over the moon. So this is a valid syllogism, but it is unsound. Now, the second example here, all presidents have been male. Lincoln was male, therefore Lincoln was president. This one may be a little bit tougher to figure out. Is it valid or invalid? Well, all that is true. All presidents up to this point have been dudes. But the category here, all presidents have been male, Lincoln was male, therefore Lincoln was president, that does not necessarily follow. So you can see with the cows being, all purple animals and whatever else, that at least makes sense, but you can't get a necessary conclusion from all presidents have been male, Lincoln was male, therefore Lincoln's president, because we could just take Lincoln out and put Jonathan Wells. So all presidents have been male, Jonathan Wells is male, therefore Jonathan Wells was president. It doesn't work. So you could, put something else in there, and it doesn't necessarily follow. So, there's the category of males, and that is a larger category than presidents, and they don't completely overlap. So, if we had a Venn diagram, it'd be the two circles with, a little bit of overlap, but not all the way. But if we're doing that with all purple animals, then we would have, here's purple animals, or all cows are purple, and all purple animals, the circle will be completely inside all purple animals jump over the moon. So, we could work with that one there. So again, sound, an argument is sound if it's both valid and the premises are true. An argument may be valid and unsound, but can never be invalid and sound. Just like the I love pizza, Inception was a good movie. have a blue car. That argument, even though they're all true, it's invalid, so it cannot be sound because there's no real relationship between the truth value of those premises. And don't worry if you're getting scared by philosophy and getting scared by this class. This is the hardest stuff to get. It gets easier from here on out, so stick with me. Do the readings. Email me if you're confused, and I'll try and help you. So yeah, argument is unsound if it's either invalid or one or more of the premises are false. So here's some examples. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Socrates is mortal. So that's a sound argument. So those are true premises with a true conclusion. It's a valid structure. Let's go down to the bottom left. All cows are purple. All purple animals jump over the moon. All cows jump over the moon. Well, we see that that's it's a valid structure, but it doesn't have true premises, so it can't be sound. Top right, I have a blue car. Avatar was a good movie. I love pizza, therefore I love pizza. Well, I have a blue car. Avatar wasn't a good movie. Sorry. It was Dances with Wolves with blue people. And if we're talking about Avatar, the Last Airbender movie, that thing was atrocious, and I wish I could forget that I ever wasted an hour and a half of my life on it. So we don't have a valid structure here. This is invalid. There's no relationship between these. And we have at least one premise that we know is false. So that is an unsound argument. Again, we talked about all presidents are male. Lincoln was male, therefore Lincoln was president. It doesn't work because those categories don't have complete overlap right there. So it is invalid, even though the premises are true. All right, so here's the last little bit that I want to talk about, the laws of logic. So these are really the foundations for all reasoning. And we have to accept them as true. They're practically undeniable. And of course, you can say, I deny the laws of logic. But that's not going to help you because if you try and argue against them, you will have to appeal to them to try and disprove them, which would be self-defeating. So we got three of them here. So the law of non-contradiction. Something cannot be and not be at the same time in the same respect. So a lot of times we'll say in the same time in the same way. And that the weird thing down there with the A's and in the parentheses and all that, that's it's just symbolic logic. We're not going to worry about that in this class, so don't worry about that unless you just want to. So the law of non-contradiction. You could say, okay, well, what about this? I can be both inside and outside a room when you're standing in the doorway with 1 foot inside and 1 foot outside. You have not broken the first law of logic because you are not both inside the room and outside the room at the same time in the same way. So you'll have to figure out something else. The lights cannot be both on and off at the same time in the same way. So that one is pretty undeniable. And these next two really kind of flow out of that first one. The second is the law of excluded middle. So something either is or is not. And so something either is A or is not A. I always call this one the Princess Bride rule. So if you haven't seen The Princess Bride, that's your homework for this week too. Let's go watch that. It's a fantastic movie. But there towards the end, after he's been captured and they're torturing him, they say, well, is he dead? Well, he's mostly dead. Sorry to ruin it. It's a fantastic movie, but you can't be mostly dead. You're either dead or you're not dead. So there's not this room in between. There isn't a mostly dead for Wesley. Sorry, folks. You've got alive and you've got dead. You don't have, he's halfway alive, he's halfway dead, or mostly dead, or whatever. So, there's you're either have A or not A, and there's nothing in between for those. And then we have the the third law, the law of identity. This is the potato rule. So we've got the law of non-contradiction, the princess bride rule, and now we have the potato rule. So the law of identity. This was pretty easy. Something is what it is. A equals A. A is not something else. A is not C. A is not D, or whatever. So Wesley's alive. He's not dead. He's not mostly alive or mostly dead or whatever. He's just alive. So why did I call this the potato rule? I call it the potato rule because there's this ridiculous saying, something, it either is or it isn't, right? So something is A or A. So everything in the universe either is a potato or it is not a potato. So potatoes are potatoes, and everything else is not a potato. So when somebody asks you what you learned from this class, like, well, I learned about every single thing in the universe. They're like, well, what did you learn? You're like, well, I learned that most of it isn't potatoes. And people will look at you a little weird. And if they ask you about something, you say, well, I can tell you this about it. It's not a potato. So there you go. Don't say I've never taught you anything. So those are our three laws of logic. We've got our syllogisms. We've got deductive syllogisms, and they have to have a correct structure and all true premises to have a true conclusion and to be what's considered sound. So if it is invalid, wrong structure, or one of the premises is false, then it is unsound. So hopefully that clears up some of the readings and helps more than muddies the water. But I will talk to you guys later.